Hello, it's Mrs. Petrakis reading another story from the Storybook Bible. This week, our lesson is about Hannah and Samuel. Hannah prays for a child. Hannah dreamed of having a baby to love and hold. She dreamed of singing lullabies to him until he fell asleep in her arms. But year after year passed, and Hannah had no baby. Her friends laughed at her and called her names. Hannah cried and cried. Even though she was sad, Hannah prayed in the temple every day. She prayed, "Oh God, if you give me a son, I will make sure that he spends his life serving you." Eli, the priest at the temple, watched Hannah as she prayed. Her lips moved quickly, but she didn't make a sound. He thought this was very strange, so he said to her, "Stop acting so silly." "Oh no, sir," Hannah said. "I'm not acting silly. I'm praying to God because I want to have a baby." Eli looked into her eyes and said to her, "Go in peace. God will give you what you're asking for." Hannah trusted in God. Soon her tears turned into joy. God gave her a son and she named him Samuel. Hannah was so happy. She laughed and danced and kissed Samuel all over his little face. She sang lullabies to Samuel and held him close as he fell asleep. Soon it was time for Hannah to keep the promise she had made to God. When Samuel was still a boy, she took him to Eli at the temple. She said, "I am the woman who was here praying to God for a baby. God gave me a son, Samuel. Now he will spend his life serving God." Samuel stayed at the temple with Eli. He grew and grew and grew, serving God every day of his life. God calls Samuel. Samuel is now 12 years old, and he lives in the temple with a priest named Eli and learned about God. Eli took care of Samuel, and Samuel helped take care of Eli because Eli was almost blind. One night, something special happened. As Samuel slept in the temple, he heard a voice call out, "Samuel." Samuel thought it was Eli calling, so he jumped up from his bed. "Here I am," Samuel answered as he ran to Eli. "I'm here because you called me." But Eli shook his head. "I didn't call you. Go back to your bed." Samuel did as he was told and fell asleep quickly. A little while later, the voice called again, "Samuel." This time, Samuel was more tired and crawled out of his bed more slowly. In Eli's room, Samuel rubbed his eyes, scratched his tummy, and said with a yawn, "Oh, I'm here because you called me." Eli was getting tired of Samuel coming into his room and said more firmly, "I didn't call you. Now please go back to bed." When this happened a third time, Eli thought to himself, "Aha, it must be God who is calling Samuel." Eli told Samuel, who was now very confused and very sleepy, "If you are called again, just say, 'God, I hear you and I will do whatever you want.'" When the voice called again, Samuel did as Eli told him. It was God, and God had many things to say to Samuel. Even though he was only 12, Samuel wanted to serve God. With God's help, Samuel grew up to share many messages from God. People all over Israel knew Samuel as God's trusted prophet.